Before you go and start your backyard chicken flock, there are some very important things you have to consider. Whether you're a homesteader or a gardener, chickens are one of the most beneficial creatures we can have around. Whether you have a large property or you're living in a smaller urban setting, you have room for chickens. The problem is, some places do not allow you to have chickens. So the number one most important thing to do is check your local ordinances and make sure you're allowed to have chickens. Some of them will limit the number of chickens you can have. Some will tell you you can't have roosters, but that's very important or else you're going to have chickens that you need to rehome. Number two is going to be space. How much room do you have for your chickens? We have to think about the coop and the run, because that's going to dictate how many chickens you can own. The standard is usually 3 to 5 square foot per chicken. I'm not a huge fan of that. I like to give them a little extra room. Like here, I got like about 100 square feet, which means I could have 20 chickens in this old shed. I converted it to a coop. But to me, that just seems a little cramped. So I only have 8. I was lucky enough to have this old shed here that I can convert into a chicken coop. But if you don't have a situation like this, you're going to have to buy a coop. And usually when you buy it, it'll tell you how many chickens you can fit inside there. Along with a nice, safe coop for the chickens to roost in, they're also going to need some type of run. If you're free-ranging your chickens, this isn't going to be a big deal. But in a lot of urban settings, they're not going to let you free-range. So you have to have a nice, comfortable run for the chickens to play in, eat in, and hang out. This is a run I built, connected right to the chicken coop. This is about 8 by 11. And it seems to fit these 8 chickens pretty good. You may be wondering why, with 2.5 acres to work with and a nice 1/4 acre garden full of bugs they could be eating, why I choose to keep my chickens in an enclosed run. Fun fact, everything wants to eat your chickens. They're at the bottom of the food chain. Free ranging is a personal choice. I have nothing against it. Just know if you let your birds free range, you are going to lose birds at some point. You have hawks in the air, you have raccoons, coyotes, your neighbor's dog coming over to your yard, and don't think that because some of these animals are nocturnal, that they will not come out during the day. Just as I was filming this, they were doing a tornado siren test, and I can hear the coyotes less than a 1/4 mile away going crazy. A few weeks ago at 1 in the afternoon, I was on this back porch talking, and a coyote came over and was trying to break down the walls of the chicken run to get my chickens, and they were freaking out. So I ran inside, got the cordless hole punch, ran down, and the coyote took off before I can get a shot at him. Luckily, I have a heavily reinforced chicken run here, and he could not get through. But just be advised that even if you are around with your flock free ranging outside, all it takes is a couple seconds for a hawk to come down, coyote to run out of the woods, and your chicken is gone. So on the topic of predators, let's talk about protecting our chickens. For the most part, any type of coop you use is going to be pretty secure, especially if you have the sliding door that closes at night. Let's go in here and take a look. What's up, ladies? I do not have a sliding door on my chicken coop, and it leads right into the chicken run. I can get away with this because I have reinforced my chicken run to be predator proof. The level of reinforcement you're going to need is going to depend on what kind of predators you got around. So here, I'm dealing with mostly raccoons, coyotes. So what I did was, I have the standard paneling here, chicken wire in front, a second layer of chicken wire down low here that I actually stapled all the way at the bottom, so it's a tight 90-degree angle, and it extends about 2 foot out. So if anything comes here and tries to dig, they are going to hit this chicken wire underneath here. And under that, I even put hardware cloth, which is the better option because chicken wire is pretty brittle and a lot of animals can get through it. But having this double layer here, that's going to stop anything from digging. An alternate method some people use is they'll dig about 2 feet down and extend this hardware cloth straight down. I prefer the way I'm doing it because the grass grows up real nice through it and you can't see it. And if something comes here and starts digging, they're going to hurt their paws. Some people are going to have a different situation where you have to deal with minks and weasels. In that case, this chicken wire is not going to be good enough. It's about 1 inch wide, so they can squeeze right through here. And even though they're tiny animals, they will tear your chickens to shreds. Now that we have a safe home for our chickens to hang out, we got to think about what kind of chickens we want to get. This is all going to depend on the climate you live in. In Southeast Michigan, it gets really hot and it gets really cold. So you're going to want breeds that can handle that kind of situation. I decided to go with Barred Rocks and Golden Lace Wyandottes because they're very cold hardy breeds. Over the winter when it gets super cold, it's below zero, these chickens are still out here hanging out doing their thing. But it's not the cold that's going to hurt your chickens, it is the heat. Chickens do not like heat, which brings us to water and ventilation. Make sure your chickens always have water. They drink a lot of water. That is a 25-gallon bucket there. And there's different ways you could do the poultry nipples. I got the little cups that fill up as they peck at it. And when it's really hot out, make sure your chickens have shade. My chickens have plenty of shade with this nice roof over here and the trees on the other side. And they also get a decent dose of evening sun. And when that heat really kicks in the summer, you got to have some ventilation in the coop. So I put some windows in the front here, screens on them. I also have one in the top at the back. And since this stays open all the time, air also comes in here. So I always have a decent amount of air circulation coming through here. Also make sure the chickens have fresh water inside the coop as well. And don't forget, your chickens got to eat. They eat a lot of food. Don't underestimate the chickens on how much they can eat. Here's how I feed the chickens inside the coop. Got this big barrel here I fill with their grain. And these are real nice here too, because you can fill this up, and as they need more food, they'll peck in here, and it comes out. This tray also helps keep a lot of this grain inside here so they don't make a huge mess and waste food. Feeding your chickens is probably going to be the most expensive part of raising your chickens, but there are ways to save money doing so. If you have food scraps that you normally throw in the compost, you can give it to the chickens instead, and they'll eat that. Or if you have a garden with an abundance of food, you can also go in there and find all kinds of stuff to feed your chickens. Leafy greens like the crimson giant radish, some horseradish leaves, kale, got some bolted romaine lettuce, chickens love that, carrot tops, garden weeds too, like dandelions, got some clover. Chickens really love dandelions and clover. Tossed in some tomatoes, some eggshells, chopped up a loofah for them, and as you can tell, they're pretty excited. And if you look here too, I threw some dry leaves in there, some grass clippings, because a bonus of feeding your chickens this way is they are going to turn into a compost factory for your garden. Here's my chicken feeding pit. So what happens is, when these chickens go in here and eat, once we dump all this out, they're going to dig around and pick through this, and they're going to scratch at it, and they're actually going to create compost. So not only are these chickens scratching around in here making compost for our garden, you'll also notice if you use this method and just give them all this extra food, they're going to eat a lot less grain, and that's going to save you a lot of money. Can't beat the taste of farm fresh eggs, but chickens are not for everyone, so make sure you consider everything I just talked about before you go out and buy your chickens. And if you think chickens are right for you, go out and get some chickens. They're awesome to have around. They're really cool pets, as we call them, because they are like pets to us. The gardening season winding down, there will be more chicken videos, But until then, make sure you like this video and subscribe to the channel. Thank you for watching.